Good morning, everybody. It's Katrina from the Alluring Bead Boutique. I've been working on a new blog post for the new blog on the alluringbeadboutique.com, and I'm working on showing you guys how to do this pendant. And I'm calling it a component because I haven't really decided exactly what I'm going to do with these yet. I'm thinking of making a couple of different ones and maybe making a large centerpiece and doing a necklace, but it could just as easily be used for beautiful little earrings or a single pendant. Now I've already finished the first two parts of the post, which are not like a full pattern, just to be honest with you. It's for I'm calling it an intermediate project, and basically you can follow along the post pretty easily as long as you know a couple of basic things like brick stitch on a frame. And I've done a lot of videos previously that discuss brick stitch on a frame. I also have a handy little PDF guide you can download off of off of my shop or off of Etsy that has step-by-step photo instructions on how to do brick stitch on a frame. For this particular project, I incorporated also using some super duos here, which is pretty cool. I haven't done that before. And then I did the intersection here, which if you'll notice these gray beads around the stone here, I did the inside row of brick stitch on a frame and included a center bead, which gave me a nice little circle of beads here, which I could then utilize to do some peyote here on the back. And what that did was basically keep this stone here from spinning on its thread axis. Let me show you the bead. It's just a little coin shell bead, a single hole. And so when I stitched it into the project, you obviously could swing it around back and forth on the center string. So I wanted to devise a way to stop that from happening, so I went ahead and did a little bit of peyote here on the back. So what I decided to do for YouTube is go ahead and do a couple of little short videos on the process used to create this little component. And what you'll need, of course, I have the full materials list in the blog posts. Like I said, I've got two parts done so far. The second part isn't quite published yet, but the first part is. I'll throw some links in for you. You're going to need some 25mm just soldered closed hoops. And these are the same ones I've used in several of my videos that I get over at Joann's. And you get quite a variety of different shapes and sizes for each color. And this is the gunmetal. So I went ahead and took, I'm using a size 10 needle today and some .008 wildfire. I'm not a big fan of wildfire, but I still have plenty of that left, and I'm just trying to use it up. So I'm going to go ahead and use that today. I'm going to go ahead and start the first couple of rows with you in this video. And what we'll need for seed beads are some 11-ohs, and I love these beautiful silver line frosted gray. There are some Toho seed beads. They're really, really pretty. You can see how they look on the project. It's just really nice. We'll also need some black or jet opaque seed beads, and I'm using these check glass 11-oh seed beads that I get over at Hobby Lobby when they have the sales 50% off. I usually stock up on them. They're pretty good. They're very uniform in shape, but they're a little small, a little bit smaller than the Toho beads. If you'll take a look, they're almost like a Rocal seed bead, but we'll be using some of those on the inside ring, inside the hoop, on that row of brick stitch there, but we'll also be using those as accents here along the outside. We're going to use some check super duos, and these are just your regular standard 2.5 by 5mm jet opaque check glass super duos, and I used 19, and it worked out really great. So I'll be using 19 on this, obviously on this match here. And then I've got some accent beads also that I used here to cover the thread on the frame, and then I also used them on the back to peyote the little stone in place. And I just was playing around trying to figure out the living coral Pantone of color of the year. And these, to me, even though their name is Toho Silverline Milky Grapefruit. They have that really beautiful coral color. And also the little coin bead is close enough. And I have it in the materials list in the blog post, but I'm pretty sure these are like right about a 15 millimeter little flat bead. You can use any kind that you want. You could even use a round bead if you don't have one of these. Anyhow, so what I'm going to do is get my area cleaned up just a dab, and we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to start this project. Okay, so I got everything kind of straightened up a little bit. I like to clean my area off because I'm terrible for hanging my thread up on stuff if it's all laying around my desk. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with this row of the frosted gray seed beads. And we're going to stitch them onto the outside of our little hoop here. And you'll need to have an even number. And luckily, I've already done the work for you guys. And I can tell you right now that it's going to take 38. And you need an even number because basically we're going to be adding these 2-hole super duos on top of those. So obviously, you'll have to have a number that's divisible by 2. So as it works out, 38 works great. And that means gives us that we'll need 19 of these super duos per hoop. So we're just going to start out like you do on brick stitch on a frame or regular flat brick stitch. You're going to start by picking up 2 seed beads always at the start of each row. And what that does is it keeps you from having exposed thread. We're going to let that fall down to the frame just like this. Now when you're working with brick stitch on a bead or a frame, or actually on a frame, the hoop itself substitutes in for the thread bridge. So I've got my thread here. I'm going to take the seed beads, let them drop down, just like this. And then I will pass my needle through the hoop while holding on to those beads so that they don't fall through the hoop. And when I pull my thread, you see how I hold them? Just like this, so that they don't fall through the hoop. You're going to take your needle and you're going to pass up through the last bead that you picked up, which for me is going to be this bead over here on the left because I'm left-handed. So I'm going to come up through that bead just like this. From the tail thread is exiting the bead right here on this side. I'm going to come through the hole that the tail thread is exiting. And I'm just going to pull my thread all the way through. And it stands that bead up right here on the edge. Now, you can wait and straighten this bead right here at the end. I like to do it at the start because it just looks better. So I'm straightening my first bead up just by passing right down through that first bead from the top to the bottom. And then I'm going to come right back up that second bead from the bottom to the top. And in essence, what we're doing right there is ladder stitching those 2 beads together so that when I pull, they now sit nicely beside each other. So that was our first stitch, and like I said, in every row of brick stitch, no matter how you're doing it, you're always going to start with 2 beads. And then you're going to carry on by just picking up 1 bead at a time. Now you can take the time to let them fall all the way down if you need to. It's very much more time consuming that way. Then you would have to come through the hoop and then come up through your bead. Like that. To me, I find that to be a little bit too time consuming. I like to truck along and move right along. So normally the way that I do it is I just pick up a seed bead, just like this. I pass my needle under the hoop like this, but I hold my finger right here. And I catch that little bead as I pull my thread through. That saves me a little bit of trouble. And if it falls through, it's okay because it's really easy just to put it back on the other side, just like that. I didn't mean to drop it, but sometimes it happens. So now that I've got the little bead in place, I'm going to come from the front and pass back up through that seed bead here. Alright, so we'll just keep moving along. We're going to add these beads one at a time until we have all 38 added. And I do suggest that you at least count out an even number of beads, and to ensure that you wind up with an even number at the end. So I'm just going to keep on adding my beads one at a time. until I've come all the way around the beadwork. Two things before I go. Do not pull so tight that your beads bunch up. This is the look you're going for. Turn your hoop this way and make sure that your beads are lining up nice and straight. And then also make sure that you're not getting any kind of a big gap in between the beads. And these look really good. So I'll keep working and I'll meet you guys back when I get ready to end this row. Okay, so I've worked myself all the way around here, and I'm going to talk just a moment about this technique of brick stitch on a frame. Sometimes it's really hard to know when to stop adding beads. You can see that I have this little gap right here, and I've got one more bead left to add, and I'm getting ready to add that. So for this project, because we need an even number of beads, it's a no-brainer on whether or not to add another bead or two. But when you're just working a regular brick stitch and you don't need a certain number, it doesn't have to be even or what have you. Sometimes it's hard to tell, and when you're doing brick stitch, a lot of it is going to be using your own judgment. So now I've put that bead into position. I'm getting ready to come back through from the bottom to the top. Go ahead and pull that in, preferably without my tail thread getting hung. And you can see that this one worked out pretty darn good, but sometimes, depending on the bead and what have you, it gets really difficult to determine whether to put another bead in or to not put it in and have a little bit of a gap. The way I use to determine whether or not to do that is I take a look at my beadwork, and this looks really good. If you look when I spin this around, my beads are lined up on a perfect plane with that frame, and that's the look that you want. You want for the beads to be on the same plane as the actual bead frame. So let's go ahead and close this up. I'm coming out of the top of my last bead I added, so I'm just going to take my needle and come down through from top to bottom my very first bead of the row. And I'm working on the front side of my frame. I'm going to pull that through nice and snug. Now I'm exiting that first bead. I'm just going to come right back up through that second bead. But before I pull it through, I'm going to take this hand and I'm going to pull that thread nice and snug, and then I'm going to pull. Because I don't like having those little thread bridges being loose at the top. And so now when I pull, you can see that my beads look great. There's no noticeable gaps. And like I said, the beads are all laying on the same plane as the hoop itself when you look at it from the side view like that. And that's what we want to have happen. So now I'm going to show you guys how to add the super duos. So we're coming out of this bead. It's very simple. We're just going to pick up a super duo and bring it down. And this one you probably will want to let them fall down, because basically it's just going to be so much easier for you if you do. My tail thread's getting a little bit annoying. So I'm going to let it come down here. So I've come up through this hole of my super duo. I need to drag. I sew to the left because I'm left-handed. So I'm just going to take my needle and put it through this other hole. And then I'm going to come down that very next 11-0 to my left, just like that. Pull it all through. And it looks like a little UFO sitting there on the outer edge. And they're going to look a little bit wonky, but we will, on the third row, we will straighten everything up and tie our super duos together. But first we have to add them. So now I'm just going to go up through the very next 11-0. And this is why you need an even number of beads, because you have 2 whole beads. So I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to pick up my next one and drop it down where it needs to be. I'm going to come through that second hole and come down through the very next 11-0 to my left. Get into position by going up through the very next bead. And that's all there is to this round. It's really simple. You do not have to worry about passing back and forth through the hoop on this round, because we're working with the previous row of beads. So we're lucky on that one. And we don't have to worry about thread bridges on this round either. Although we're going to have an exposed thread bridge on the top of our super duos, we're going to take care of that in the next round too. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue on until I have all 19 of my little super duos here sitting on the outside edge of my bead hoop. And I'll meet you folks back here. Alright, so here we are, and we've come all the way around. I'm getting ready to put on this last little super duo, so I'm going to let her drop on down. I'm going to go ahead and put my needle through the next hole, and then I'm going to come down through my very last open gray seed bead right here on my frame. Pull it into position. And I got to tell you guys, I really think this looks cool. I love the way those super duos give a little ruffly edge to this brick stitch beadwork. I like it a lot. But I'm going to go ahead and close this up. I'm going to come up through the very next gray seed bead to my left, because I sew to the left, and pull that through. And then I've got to come up through that first hole of this super duo, the very first super duo, which to me is going to be the right hand hole because I'm stitching to the left. So I'm going to come up through that right hand hole of my very first super duo, and I'm going to pull my thread. And that gets us into position to do the next round on this adorable little project. So in this segment, we are going to go ahead and add our little accent beads, but we're also going to use this same step to connect the super duos together. So if you remember, I was coming out of the right-hand side of my very first super duo here. And what I want to do is I want to stitch into the previous super duo. So we can either do it sewing backwards, or you can flip the work, which to me, I love sewing towards, in a certain direction. But for this purpose, I'm just going to go ahead and sew this way. So here I'm coming out to the right-hand side of that hole. I'm going to go down the left-hand side of the next super duo, and only the super duos. Now pull that into position, and situate my beads nicely on top of those two super duos. And I'm just going to come right back up through the right-hand side of this current super duo. And pull my thread through. And then I'm just going to repeat that. And my bead sequence here is a 11-0 gray, 11-0 black, 11-0 gray, as you can plainly see. So now I am coming out of the right-hand side of my last super duo. I'm going to go down the left-hand side of the very next one. And it's just down and up, just like we've been doing pretty much for the last couple of rows. And so we'll go up through the open hole of this same super duo. And I'm just going to repeat that until I've come all the way around the beadwork and I've added these adorable accent beads. But at the same time, I am straightening my super duos so that when I turn my beadwork on the side like this again, you can see that everything falls back into the plane, the same plane as my hoop. So I have worked myself all the way back around, and I am exiting the right-hand side hole of this super duo. I've got my 3 accent beads here onto my needle, and I'm going to come down into the right-hand hole of the very super duo I started this round from, and go ahead and pull those beads into position. Now let's take a look at our work. Because now that we've connected those super duos, you can see that the beadwork has really lined up nicely on the same plane with the frame. Looks really good. And it's really pretty. The accent beads just add a nice little pop to the outside edge. And that is pretty much it for the first, the videos to correlate with the first blog post, the part 1 of the series. What we're going to do to finish this up is we are now coming out of the bottom of this super duo. What we want to do is go through that gray seed bead right underneath that hole and pull that thread through, just like this. Don't let it get hung up on your beadwork. Make sure it comes all the way around, just like that. And now you are in position to work on the inside part of this bead frame. And we will cover that in the next videos. But I just wanted to show you guys how pretty that comes out and let you know what we're working towards here is our goal. couple of quick things before I jump off for right now. These beautiful Arabesque Moroccan earrings, I've had this pattern available for a long time, but I do have an updated version of this design in my new Skillshare class, and they're really beautiful. I have actually sold a couple of pairs of these earrings for quite a bit of money. I got like $78 for one pair and $65 for the other, so that's pretty cool. And I also used gold filled to make my findings for this pair. But go ahead and check out that Skillshare class if you'd like to join me over there. If you use my link, you get 2 free months of premium access. I've got quite a few classes over there now, if you want to check that out. I'm also working on my Patreon presence. So basically what that is just a way that you can help me keep doing free videos on YouTube with supplies, you know, and to help me compensate for the time and energy it takes to do and the materials it takes to keep the freebies going here on YouTube. I will be having more out about that later. I think my first Patreon class or whatever I'm going to do is going to be for a pendant to a larger component to go along with this set here. So stay tuned for that. And make sure you guys follow my blog and head on over there. I did want to let you know that I'm now selling my jewelry on Amazon handmade, but I decided to go ahead and put some of it on Etsy too. All my patterns and technique guides, for the most part, are available in my Etsy shop, but I do have the Alluring Bead Boutique shop site up and running, and all the patterns and technique guides are available there as well. So head on over to all those little things and check everything out if you want to. And just do follow my blog, please, and follow me on social media. Make sure you like this video if you like it. Subscribe to my channel, and you guys have a great day. And I'll meet you back for the second part of this, which will be to add the inner row of beads here on the inside of the frame. And we will also add the accent beads here to cover the threads on the frame. And then in part 3, we will be actually adding our little beautiful stone bead in the middle. All right, folks, have a great day, and thanks for watching.